Hello, good morning. It's 8:02 and yeah, I had a couple dreams. I don't really I wrote down a couple sentences on them, but I'm not too sure on I'm just pulling up the dream thing that I was looking at. Um where is it? There it is. So my first dream, I just I don't remember any of it other than knowing that I met with that soul connection that I feel. Don't know what happened. I just know that that's what happened. um, and then the second dream, it felt kind of like Street Fighter, but it was like we were in this school. So I think I'm going to start with school. School. Social concerns and insecurities are anxieties. Worrying, anxiety about how well you're being perceived by others, or how well you are performing in life. There is something happening in your life that you are sensitive about, or that's very important to be careful about. Schools symbolize a state of mind when you are caring about what you're thinking. You may have issues at work or other areas of your life that are weighing heavily on your mind. You're concerned about something. Positively, schools may be reflecting your concern with work or long-term projects being perfectly accurate. Negatively, dreams about schools may reflect heightened levels of anxiety or prolonged periods of fear. Okay, well, so school plus, um, so we were doing this like Street Fighter esque like fighting thing where it was like a duel. Okay, so the duel part of it. To dream of a duel may reflect waking life situations where compromise seems impossible. Issues with seeing things in black and white only. Rigid conflict between people's egos. A possible sign that more effort is needed to make a compromise or share power. Okay. And then I guess. Okay. I also did fighting just because it wasn't just a duel. Like, we were fighting and we were using like powers. I don't know. Like, I remember my opponent had like this one attack where I think there was like a card, like cards involved in some way that like allowed you to learn abilities or something. But like I vaguely remember You're like, oh wow, you upgraded your ability. Because my opponent used an ability that required 100 daggers of a specific, or 100 weapons of a specific thing. Yeah. It was really weird. And I was surprised because the non-upgraded version only needed a couple to use that ability. So let's see. To dream of fighting represents thoughts about conflict, confrontation, and struggling in your waking life. Feelings about getting what you want not being easy. Unsolved issues, tension, opposition, or disagreement that you are grappling with. Struggling with personal issues, difficult emotions, other people, or life situations. Feelings of resistance or trying to prove yourself. Experiencing intense bitterness or jealousy. Feeling that all your energy is required to achieve a goal. Heightened emotional state during an argument. Feeling that people don't like you and are testing you with an unwelcome attitude. Feeling that people have turned on you. Stress, conflict, demands being placed on you. Misinformation, unfairness, confronting ignorance, or broken agreements. Positively, dreaming about fighting may represent feelings about standing up for yourself. Negatively, dreaming about fighting may represent feelings of anger, aggression, hostility, or frustration. Okay, so based on what I'm thinking here, I think it seems like the dream was kind of trying to tell me that I am let me go back to school. Okay, so I think what the dream my intuition is telling me that this dream, based on what I'm reading here, it was about feeling anxious towards a situation. Specifically, I think it has to do with the living situation / roommate situation, where I think because I am basically at a point where I'm like very sure that I'm just moving out. There's anxiety around how the roommates are going to react, or specific roommates, once it's fully understood that there's no changing my mind on it. And because we haven't had that, because it isn't obvious that that's happening, I think it's kind of like there's anxiety over what that's going to look like. and the conflict that will inevitably show up. And I say inevitably, but it's like there's one roommate in particular that is definitely gonna have like, I don't think I think he still thinks that I'm gonna back out or something and stay. And he also hasn't had a lot of time to think about it and pester me about it because we've been like separated. So, and then the other roommates are more like passive. So I guess there is like a worry of that upcoming kind of conflict, which makes sense. Okay, let me write that down. Just originally I wasn't going to write it down because I don't know. Okay. Sorry, I'm like... Okay. Dream is pointing out my anxiety around moving out and how the conflict might unfold regarding one of my roommates. Okay. Alright. So I've done that. I think this is... Originally, I wasn't even going to do the dream thing today, but I think this might be a good new segment. As long as I keep it, like, short, and I don't spend, like, an hour, like I did yesterday. But, okay. So... I'm not sure what I'm gonna do today. Oh, I wanted to mention, so I haven't been weighing myself, because I think I'm going to relax on weighing myself and weigh myself once a week. I think that was another level of, like, being too focused, where if my focus is on the weight, I know that I'm going to be continuing to lose weight because of what I'm doing. So I don't need to try and get confirmation every day. So I'm going to do it once a week. It still keeps me, like, honest and tracks, like, what's going on. But it also allows for me to not stress about it if I see a fluctuation on a day-to-day, because things will happen and I will fluctuate, but the downward trend being losing weight is what matters, and the day-to-day doesn't really, like, obviously it matters, but it doesn't matter in so much as what I was doing before was stressing me a little too much. where like I'll see it and I'll be like, oh my gosh, why did I only lose 0.2 pounds? Blah, 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 whatever, right? So also my food situation is totally different now. I think it's in a more healthy state. So yeah. So I think having the weight in a more healthy state as well is important. And I think once I get to the like kind of more goal weight, you know, the low 200s, and what I mean by low 200s is like, you know, maybe like 220, 210, 200. I don't know what the ideal weight looks like for my body, but because I remember back when I was younger, 180 I was a twig. 185 to 190 is where I was like, I say 180 I was a twig. I think it was more like 150 or 160. I was like sticks. 180, 185 is where I was like, I had muscles and, you know, I didn't really have a stomach. Like I had a little bit of one, but it was like, I was at a very healthy body fat ratio. And I'm not sure what that's going to look like with me being older. My suspicion is 200 is going to be like a good weight for me. But yeah. So we'll see. Again, it's just all about going through the motions and continuing to do what I should be doing. So, yeah. Also, I really, like, I've been getting so many messages about cleaning. I need to clean my aura, clean my room, clean my, like, mental, like, thoughts. You know, it's like, clean everything. And it's like, and what I mean by clean is like anything that anything that I deem as something that no longer resonates with me, I need to remove from me. Because we do hold like some sort of energetic weight on the things that we carry around. So, yeah. Anyway, yep. Okay. I'm gonna go. I want to get some stuff done. So, I'll talk to you a little bit later. Bye. Hello. I'm really going to try not to do this, but it is 8:50 p.m. As you can see behind me, to the, well, your left, my right, I have completed the Lego tree that I was working on. It actually looks really good. I almost dropped the whole thing. That would have been tragic. Yep. No, it was actually like, out of all the builds, it was probably, there we go. That looks really good. Out of all the builds, it was probably, I say all, there's 2 builds. It was an easier build and it was quicker. A lot of repetition on the branches. So Wasn't anything too groundbreaking or exciting, but I'm glad it's done now so that my desk isn't crazy. Anyway, what I was saying before is I really hope, I say hope, I'm going to make it a point to not just randomly keep going to restaurants instead of making food at home. Because I think there needs to be a balance. Okay, fine. I had one meal yesterday. Today I went and got the mushroom hot pot stuff, which has a little tofu in it, and I also got a egg rice, which is basically just rice with an egg cracked on top. I don't know if I even needed to explain that, but I'm explaining it anyway. And then I just ate, and I probably, in hindsight, I should have made the video when I made this. But I was like, I'm going to have... Okay, backing up a little bit. So I went to a store afterward to get a few supplies for my evening meals. Because I'm beginning to realize my evening meals need to be where I get the variety. And then my morning meals are going to be more of the stability to, like, set my day. There's one more thing of tofu, so technically I can do everything tomorrow, which I will. I'm watching you, future Tom. You better have done this. I'm going to be so mad if you didn't. But, okay. So we'll see if Editor Tom cringes and leaves a comment because he didn't do something. I know he will. Listen, I know me. I know future me. He's got this. He's got this under lock. But anyway, so I went to get some supplies. I got the bread that I like, although it was different in that it had flax seeds instead of sesame seeds. Turns out it's fine. Like, the flax seeds are just as good, I think. But I'll get to that in a second. So I got the bread, I got some carrots, and I got some more guacamole. And I got some little, mandarin, or not mandarin, they're the little tiny orange guys. They're not mandarins. They're like, I guess they're called cuties, but that's not the technical term for them. You guys know what I'm talking about. They're not an orange. They're just better than oranges, in my opinion. They're smaller. They peel easier. They taste better. So I don't know. You can fight me on it. That's fine. I like my opinion. But anyway, so I did that. And so today we launch the start of the saga of the Smirk. And by the time you're actually watching this, you'll have seen everything play out up to this point where it's like, this Smirk just keeps haunting me. And it's like, I know that, like, at this point, oh my gosh, like, no, I'm not even gonna say anything about this. The Smirk, there was some knowing going on with that Smirk. That's all I'll say. But yeah, I almost fell into the trap again. It's like a repeating, like, trap that just keeps, like, showing up when I least expect it. I'll hear, like, a random reading, and the reading will be like, today, you will, your divine counterpart is going to show up. I'm like, fuck. Like, don't say that. Because then you get me excited. And I, like... it's like, come on, man. I thought I was over this already. And then, the smirk returns in full force, and I'm like... And it's really hard to not try and, like, alter my plans to try and make something happen and do fishing, which you guys know I've probably talked about the fishing thing. Well, yeah, I have. So you know about the fishing. But yeah, it's like watching that video back, I definitely cringed a little bit at, like, how just so ego driven that one, like, earlier video was. Oh my gosh. Like, it was crazy. And I talked about how, like, oh yeah, my intuition is totally telling me this. And it's like, I get that sometimes, where it's like my mind really tries to convince me that it's my intuition sometimes. And it's such a weird thing where in the moment, I'm like, oh yeah, totally, it's an intuition thing. But it actually wasn't really. It was just my mind saying it was intuition, and then me agreeing with it, and then just going along with it, because that's what I want. Right? Like, well, if my intuition said it, then it's totally going to happen, which is true. So, because of that, my mind uses that to its advantage to try and, like, well, of course, intuition said it's happening, so it's happening. And then me, the observer, is like, oh my gosh, it's happening. This is exciting. When in reality, it's like, no, the intuition didn't say shit. Like, I gotta talk to my mind a little bit more about, like, bro, you can't be doing this. You can't be pretending to be the intuition. But anyway, so inevitably, I was driving around thinking about, like, well, I should totally go and, like, because I went to the gym and I ended up doing my workout, and I was going to play racquetball, but then the court was reserved for like an hour or two. And I'm like, I'm not going to wait an extra hour. And technically I could have played basketball. That was definitely on the cards and on the table, because they had just finished a game and were trying to gather people for a second game. So I could have definitely gone in there, but I chose not to. And I think part of it is because of the damn reading. Look, I'm just going to say, the reading is not the problem. It's me that's the problem, not the reading. The reading was totally fine. I'm sure it totally went that way for someone. But for me, it's like, sometimes I really want for it to be true in the moment. And so I will just let myself absorb it, and then be like, it's like a high almost of, like, yeah, everything's happening. And it's so hard sometimes. And the thing is, the readings are genuinely all really good. It's when I try to subscribe a specific time, that's when I always get into trouble. And, I literally mentioned it in the smirk which is the vlog for today. Well, I was going to say, go watch it if you haven't watched it. But I feel you probably have watched it if you're watching this video. But if you haven't watched it, go watch the smirk. Because that video is so... It's like a microcosm of exactly what's going on with the whole thing. And looking back, it's so funny because I actually did meet who I think the person is, even though we never exchanged words. And the crazy thing was the reader who read that there was going to be some eye contact thing was so right. 100% right, because that's all it was. It was eye contact, direct, literally just staring, no movement, and then the smirk. And I'm like, the reader was right, technically about both things. It didn't happen the way I wanted it to, but it happened. And I know what I felt internally. There was some, like, major confirmation. Just like, so when I first did the trip and secured the trip, I had that incredible heart beating, like, jumping out of my chest, like, you've done a really important thing. And I got that when I locked eyes with this person. And it also, there was that whole thing, which I think I've described it at least once or twice at this point, but there was that whole thing where I could see her seeing me like the inner me, and the inner me was super embarrassed. And then the inner me, I, like, remember doing this little, like, oh, you're looking at me, ooh, thing, internally. And that is when she smirked. And so it was like, that was like confirmation that she saw what I was doing there. Which, again, it's like, I've never experienced anyone doing anything like that. Now, in the interest of me, future me, who has something completely different happen than what I expect, I understand that I might be reading a lot into this. But I genuinely, like, feel that there was something there. Now, whether it's... I'm not gonna finish that. Okay. Because sometimes I like to do it, I either overanalyze one way or another, where it's like, instead of just saying, I had this experience, and then my heart had a thing, and then this thing. Those are all, like, things I've experienced. The analysis after of, well, this is the soulmate person, or the divine partner, or the whatever. This is, like, all of that stuff could be true. It also may not be true. But regardless, I know I had an experience that was, like, very impactful, right? And still echoing today, which is, I guess, a week. Well, almost a week. Wait, it's only Friday. What the That happened on Saturday. It hasn't even been a week. I guess it feels like ages of time have passed. It's like... I guess that... Okay, so I'm going to talk about something else after I finish this, like, thought.
So my point with all of this is basically whatever that was has taught me a lot because I'm still working through it and it still echoes. That's why I titled the video "The Stare ... or the smirk rather ... I was gonna say the stare, but then the smirk was way better. But yeah, so anyway, I don't really know where I was on my story of like doing stuff. I think I covered most of it. I mean, I did the gym afterward. Oh, right. Afterwards, then I ended up walking. I did my like normal walks around, but I did some extra because I was out there for about an hour. And that was because I was communicating with, so my first, I guess my longest friend, she contacted me because I had contacted her telling her about, hey, do you remember when we switched yearbooks because we were doing this like this long distance relationship thing? She's like, yeah, I still have yours. And I'm like, yep, I just found yours. It's in my like keepsake stuff. Do you want it back? She's like, yeah, I kind of like that back. You know, my husband was like, why do you have his yearbook? And she's like, I don't know. So I was like, yeah, that'd probably be a good thing to exchange back. So, and you know, just to be clear, like we are both like at a so different like points in our lives where like even if basically the exchange that we had as kids very much was like a kid thing, right? And then we just totally diverged on pathways. You know, there were some times when like we wouldn't talk for a year or two, and then we just pick up where we left off, because that's just the kind of friendship we have. So yeah, I honestly, in a weird way, by me stumbling upon the yearbooks again and thinking, oh, I gotta go send them back to her, it made me remember that I actually do know a Abyss. She's an Abyss just like I am. And she has a similar gift to that I do. With the sight and being able to just see through a person. She can do it too. And I think, I'm beginning to think, now again, it's just two people, but two people is greater than one person. And three people would make it a pattern. So if I find a third Abyss that has the sight, then maybe that's a prerequisite to being an Abyss, is you just have this sight where you can see through people because you're so deep. And she's kind of a bit earlier on her journey, where she's still working through depression. She has like her own life figured out, and I mean, it sounds like she's enjoying her life. It's just kind of, you know, she's just struggling with some emotional stuff. But yeah, so I'm just, yeah, I gotta I gotta make sure to keep in contact more often. And it's also, so speaking of readings, I know that it wasn't speaking of readings, but earlier we were talking about the readings thing. So there was a reading, I don't know, like 3, 4, 5 days ago or something, that talked about the idea of showing up in people's lives when you're needed the most. And this has been like something that has happened my whole life, where I always meet people when they're at their lowest or when they're struggling with something, and I say a few things and then like continue on with my stuff. And with friends that I've known for a while, it'll happen where they'll just come back when they're at their lowest. And it'll be either me contacting them or them contacting me, and it will be like a pivotal moment where they need me to like be there to say something. And this is just like, I don't consciously do it. It just happens. Like it's sometimes I like look for the like, where's the camera crew sometimes, because it happens so consistently that it's like how does it happen every single time? Like with almost everyone that I've interacted with, and there are a few exceptions, but with almost everyone, I interact with them, and it usually starts in some weird like tragedy moment for them where they are basically like opening up to some really hard stuff that they're working through, and I come in and I do my thing where I point at like the problem they've been struggling with, and then I leave. And that's just part of, there's like I get the feeling, and I don't mean this in like a negative way, but I get the feeling that the universe is using me to do the thing, because it's not much effort on my part. It's like, oh, I meet someone, they're having some really hard difficulty, I say a few things that I point out, it helps them in some way, I find out later that it helped them a lot, and I'm like, oh, well, that's great, I'm glad that I was able to help, and it usually takes sometimes years before I know the outcome of what I had said. I mean, an example, and again, I don't know what the outcome's going to look like, but the server lady that I interacted with twice, I don't know what the outcome of that's going to be. I could tell that, like, the first time it mattered, and I could tell the second time that it mattered, so, who knows what is going to happen there. And it's just, it's a... If someone was to follow me around, you would just see people. I kid you not. It's like sometimes I'll just get a random person that will just start telling me their life story, like in the checkout line or something. And I'm like, okay, like, I'm so used to it at this point that it's fine. Like, no problem. And I just do what I do because, I know that that's part of what the universe is kind of doing. And I know that, like, again, it's not a malicious thing. It's more of like an understanding, a mutual understanding of like, yep, I'm going to be in certain positions sometimes where I'm just going to have to say a certain thing. Whatever it is, I don't know. It'll just come up. And then I say it. I move on with my life. No idea how that person turns out, right? So the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think this is one of those moments for her. Because she's been struggling with this depression that's kind of creeped back in. She's always struggled with depression, but I think it was super important for me to interact with her today, because I'm at a point where I'm like, look, I'm out of the depression. Like, there's no depression in sight. Maybe I'm a little anxious from time to time. Maybe there's some fear still. But, like, that's kind of part of life. You're going to have to deal with that. And it's about using your strength and resilience to walk through, and courage to walk through those moments. But, yeah, again, that's kind of different than the depression stuff. And, you know, I had just released a bunch of videos to, like, talk about how hard the depression is and all this other stuff. So, yeah, so I linked her the videos and told her to keep in touch, gave her some, like, advice, and it was so funny. She was like, the classic thing that I hear all the time when I give good advice, which, you know, I can be proud and say I give good advice at this point. It's not, I don't think it's narcissistic when you consistently get people telling you, hey, you should be a counselor. Hey, you give good advice. Hey, this, hey, that. You know, it's like, yeah, when I hear that from, like, a lot of people, eventually it's like, okay, yeah, maybe I do give some good advice, you know? That's kind of my superpower. So, yeah. But I don't know. So it was like that, where I'm like, another one of those pivotal moments where she was kind of contemplating using some medication. I'm like, medication doesn't work, and she knows it doesn't work either. It just masks the symptoms. And she talked about, like, how she's like, yeah, like, the medication kind of sucks. And I don't know. Like, I assume she's going to watch the videos, and I assume that she's going to learn something from them. I don't know what the outcome is for that. But knowing that she's maybe 6 months behind me in terms of, like, her stuff, I don't know how deep she's done healing-wise. So it could be that her healing is going to take longer. But, yeah. She has a lot of resiliency as well, and a lot of strength internally. So it's like, I know she's gonna come out the other side, and she's gonna be just as dazzling as, like, anyone that I think, you know, is an abyss that makes it through everything. So yeah. So I guess, you know, I said in the past that I never met an abyss person. I was wrong. I totally forgot about her, because she very much is an abyss. And I just knew. We have very similar outlooks. Like, we hate the surface level bullshit. Like, all the masks that people put on to be, like, a certain way to try and attract certain people. It's like, you know, it's all so fake. And she was talking about how hard it is to, like, this loneliness of, like, people not really getting you. It's like, yeah, I know, I get it. Like, ironically, she's the only person, I think, who has truly, like, understood, because we're literally cut from the same cloth of, like, we're both old souls, we're both people who have gone many lives here, and who are doing, like, some really hard work, because she's had a hard life too. So, yeah. But accidentally bit my lip, and then I decided to remove the skin. I'm like, okay, whatever. There goes my not biting the lip streak, I guess. But it was the upper lip this time, so ooh, maybe you won't tell. Anyway. So, yeah. I think that's just, it's important to recognize when you're like, oh yeah, there was like, I totally forgot. I think maybe it's just because we don't talk that often. But when we do talk, it's usually like a deep conversation. And it's usually in like a pivotal moment. So, yeah. She also likes to kind of truck off on her own, which, doesn't help. But, I think she's similar in that she likes to go hermit mode. So, yeah. Oh, I just realized she's probably... I bet she's a generator as well. Which kind of means that I wonder if she knows that she's just been, like, sucking up everyone's energy and then alchemizing it. She's probably totally doing that. Yeah, I'll have to talk to her about that. I'll make a mental note, but actually, I'm gonna write a physical note. Yeah, what do you? Okay. Okay, it's written down. So now it's a double note. What was I gonna say after this? So there was another topic I wanted to cover, and I just kind of lost it. I mean, it'll come back. Oh, okay, I got it. So, I talked about the VR chat thing. I got really anxious, which is crazy. I did not expect to be so anxious going into a public room in VR chat. I was like, where is this coming from? And I literally stood so I had my headset on, and I stood, like, in the doorway, and then I sneaked over to the side, and I was just sitting there for, like, 2 minutes, trying to, like, build up the courage to go in there, to talk to basically, people who just, like, they're just chatting, hanging out, and I'm like, why am I so scared of this? So, I guess part of me is, like, putting off going, because I'm going to literally strap in again and go back to a public room tonight to just conquer this, because I'm like, nope, I am not allowing fear to fuck with me. So, if I'm afraid, that means I need to go in fucking balls deep and, like, go way harder. And so I thought about, okay, there's a VR chat world that allows you to do the, like, I don't remember what it's called, but it's like when you meet a random person, like, you're in your room, they're in their room, and you're looking at a screen that shows their room, and it's like you basically have a quote-unquote computer, and all the whole thing is basically just rotating people randomly when you do a next, and you just talk to people. You just meet new people. So maybe I should start with that. um, because I haven't ever actually interacted with anyone in VR chat. So I've been doing my own solo stuff in the past when I got the VR stuff. And then I got the motion sickness stuff. And I was like, maybe I don't want to like do VR chat because, I'm getting motion sick. Realizing that like most of VR chat is just standing around and hanging out. So whatever. It was an excuse, I think. Or actually, thinking about it now, I think it was actually because I wasn't ready for what I was supposed to be doing. And I could have gone down a totally different path if I had actually played VR chat with people before I started having all this awakening stuff. So maybe it's a good thing that I just stayed solo. Anyway. So I think the reason I got the headset stuff is for this moment where I need to face my fear here. It feels very irrational. It feels almost like it's not even really my fear because I interact with people all the time in real life. So why would this be any different? But I think specifically it's like there's the initial fear of breaking through that barrier of just putting myself out there in this really dumb, like, avatar. It's just a cat avatar. In my head, I was thinking, okay, I got this cat avatar, and it's really silly. And so that will help me bridge the gap so that then I can be like, hey, do you want advice? And they're like, from a cat? I'm like, yeah, of course. I'm the emotional support cat. That was like the line I was going to use. It's like, I don't know. Seems really silly. But, yeah. So, but I think the like rotation thing, I still can't remember. It's like, there's like a cam site that does this. That like the whole the whole world is based off of. I don't know. It was like, I think people still do it, but like it was, I could totally just do that in real life. Although I kind of don't want to deal with the like, I've heard notoriously, if I can ever remember the site, I know that notoriously people run into a lot of dicks. I'm just gonna say it. Like, I don't know. Like, because it's not moderated or anything. So it's just like, you're just scrolling through random people. And random people are fucking weird sometimes. So I don't know if I want to go through that. We'll see. I mean, maybe it'll be worth doing. But fuck. Okay. IRL version. I should do. Okay. The damn intuition struck again. Okay. So I guess do the VR chat. And then maybe the whole point of the VR chat stuff was actually for me to just do this. So, I don't know. I pointed at the paper that I wrote the IRL thing. So, okay. I'm just like, yes, I am going to waste your time so that I do not have to do the thing that I'm afraid to do. All right, I'm getting out of here. I guess tomorrow you'll know if I chickened out I'm not gonna chicken out. Fuck this. I'm going in right as soon as I press this button. All right. Bye.